meetings. We hopefully have the wonders of technology working today and having the participants online also participating. So today we've put together this program to have a chance to look at the opportunities when it comes to collaborations between industry and academia, particularly in the context of planetary science. So that's the purpose behind the Europlanet, and in a few minutes we'll talk a little bit about Europlanet. We are co-organizing this together with the help of my colleague here, Jeronimo. And we are from two different companies. I'm from a company called Blue Sky Space. Jeronimo is from ACRI-ST, and he'll present the company in a few seconds. And we are acting as industry officers for the Europlanet Society. So the Europlanet Society is an organization that brings together scientific communities across the whole of Europe and even beyond in the context and in the focus of planetary science. And one of the reasons for the setup of such an organization is because, as many of you might know, the construction of satellites for planetary science is funded by central agencies, but when it comes to the exploitation of the data and the dissemination of the science, there is not really a coordinated approach. So the point of this research infrastructure, which has been funded by the European Commission under various forms over the past 20 years or so, has enabled a large community of over 1,000 scientists across Europe to work together on an annual basis. And this year, this meeting being held here in Bratislava is a special meeting which is focused on the research infrastructure itself. But normally every year there's a big science congress called the European Planetary Science Congress, EPSC, which brings along roughly 800 to sometimes 2,000 scientists working on planetary science. This year, it's not happening because it's in the US. It's a joint meeting with the Division of Planetary Sciences, which will be happening in late September, early October in the US. And as a consequence, there is no official meeting happening in Europe, hence this meeting this year. So in this conference, we have about 150 people participating from all different stages of careers, but also different interest levels. Some are very much in specific science areas, others also interested in the opportunities for funding, technical collaborations, etc. So we have a diverse set of participants, and we are delighted to have the presence of a number of industries or industry representatives, but also government or cluster representations. And hopefully the program today will be of interest in yielding some interesting discussions. The format of the session is that the first 1.5 hours are broadcast presentations, so 10 minutes per presenter to talk about their cluster or their company and to present the capabilities. And at the end of each presentation, there will not be a formal Q&A session. That will happen at the discussion after the coffee break. But at the end of each presentation, we will ask one quick question, which is, why is it that you think it would be interesting, or if you're already doing it, it is of value to work with academics as well in the context of your work in the company? That's something that we are trying to crack as a problem, because we know that this is something that is more and more a necessity for funding from the European Commission, European Space Agency, but also in general for the benefit of society. So maybe I'll finish just by quickly introducing Blue Sky Space. We are a company that's based in the United Kingdom with a subsidiary in Italy, and we are a company that's been set up to deliver a series of scientific satellites in addition to what the space agencies are doing. And we're doing this outside of the framework of the big space agencies, and we are acting as a data operator, so we're not building satellites ourselves. We're working with manufacturers across Europe. One of those manufacturers actually is a company called C3S from Hungary, who will be joining us in the next half an hour or so. I believe that she's stuck in a traffic jam right now from on her way from Budapest, so she'll be with us shortly. But essentially what we do is we focus very much on accelerating the pace at which science satellites can be delivered, and that's maybe one example where new space and different changes in the space sector can benefit astrophysics and space science research in general, and that led us to interact with Europlanet. So I'll stop here and I'll pass over to Jeronimo.
Okay, thank you, Marcell, and thank you everyone for being here. Okay, you already made the introduction, so just to say, ACRI-ST, actually we have presented companies before in this meeting, so we said it's better to give you the word to you guys. But basically, ACRI-ST, in a few words, is we are a SME of the space sector, and we provide engineering services of all aspects of data from satellites, all the way from archival, distribution, the CalVal, simulators, etc. And several years ago, we decided to expand our activities into space science, so anything that is astrophysics and planetary science, because there are a lot of synergies in all that is has to do with the data processing, and also in the space science now they are entering the era of big data, but some things that have been, all this big data that is big data for space science, but not so much for Earth observation. So there are many solutions that are already in place that can be applied to them. And the reason we joined Europlanet is actually because, well, it falls into our strategy to expand our activities, but also to hear from scientists, right? As Marcell mentioned, there's a very large community, so we want to understand what are their needs or challenges and see where we can maybe help provide services. So with that, either one.
Thanks, Jeronimo. So Jürgen, if you could just put the next slide. The format of the session today, so it's 1.5 hours of presentations. We give 10 minutes to each. We'll have to be reasonably strict with time. So Yoga will be the enforcer, I believe, with a timer. What we will do is we'll be passing around the microphone and we'll ask each of you to present from where you're located. If the column is in the way of the camera, then maybe I suggest a slight movement. But apart from that, I would propose that we do it for simplicity. And then after the coffee break, we'll do a sort of a Q&A discussion panel networking opportunity. And the format of that will be a bit more flexible. We have a series of questions that we'll want to ask the different speakers sort of as a panel discussion to initiate a conversation. But if we see that there is a lot of questions from the audience, we will adapt to that.
And we will have a few words from the Nigel Mason also at the beginning of that session, which was the previous president of the Europlanet Society.
Okay, so I think next, this first presentation, Yoga, will be by Michal from the Czechspace office. Michal, over to you.
Once again, good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank the Europlanet organizers for the invitation and actually for bringing this interesting meeting to Bratislava. It's a great pleasure to have, if I'm not mistaken, the first meeting of this format actually taking place here in our country. So we hope that you will have a great time here in Bratislava, that it will be fruitful a couple of days, and that it might also contribute to strengthening the ties between the Slovak academia and industry and Europlanet. So I will have the pleasure to briefly introduce you to the Slovak space sector and the Slovak space ecosystem in abroad. So next slide, please. Let me start from the international setup of how and where Slovakia is placed internationally. We all know how important the international ties, that's actually why we are here today in space sector. So of course, two most important platforms that we can count on are the European Space Agency, which in fact we joined as associate member in October last year. So it's still quite fresh news, but it's very exciting, and it's a great driver for us from the technical and also business point of view, especially now after the associate membership, being able to fully contribute to some of the selected optional programs of the European Space Agency as GSTP, mainly the space hardware, Earth observation, and space safety. I would underline the space safety because here the involvement of academia, especially on our side from Slovakia, is extremely important. Then, secondly, it's also European Union. Being the member state from since 2004, we've had great opportunities to get involved in Horizon projects as a research community and industry. Now, with running Horizon Europe, we are looking forward to further strengthen our collaboration opportunities. So I always take this opportunity to call for more intensive and deep collaboration with international partners, especially through this enabling two platforms. And of course, on the right side of the slide, along with Europlanet, there are many other international platforms, either on European or global level, in which Slovakia is membering as country or as individual institutions. Next slide, please. So when we talk about the Slovak space ecosystem, we usually like to distinguish three main parts that are building it as from the perspective of the potential. Firstly, it's the companies which are active in space. Secondly, it's the R&D institutions and universities. And thirdly, it's the companies with so-called spinning technologies or spinning potential, so terrestrial companies which have relevant technological capabilities. Next slide, please. So let me start with the space economy overview, or in other words, companies which are already working on space projects. I see we have a bit of outdated number there. Now we have almost 50 companies in the country which are working in some of the domains within the space economy, with mostly 50 to 50% division between upstream and downstream, with satellite hardware development being the key driver in the upstream. Here, mostly it's about mechatronics, sensors, and actuators for larger satellites, and also sensors for small satellites, or in some cases even small satellite mission integration. And from the downstream point of view, the significant number of companies is situated in Earth observation application, working on solutions for a variety of use cases: infrastructure integrity and monitoring, energy sector support. There is also forestry-linked and agriculture-linked solutions, or transportation-linked solutions. And also there is several companies working in the GNSS area, mostly for transport on the roads or in the air. Next slide, please. Yeah, here there is a very brief snapshot of some of the companies. I underline the word "some of the" because it's not the exhausting list of companies active in the sector, but you got the picture. These have quite a broad and rich variety of heritage of how they came up, from purely space startups through actually academic spin-offs, and also several spin-ins from terrestrial sectors. Next slide, please. Yes, and the same goes for the downstream area. Next slide, please. And here it gets interesting, maybe in the context of this conference especially. And I've been talking about the technology transfer and taking this potential from academia. Here, it's important to say that Slovakia is definitely not a newcomer to space sector. So we've been active, and we've had heritage even with satellite hardware development since 1970s, and this has been utilized further in the past decades. And even now, our Academy of Sciences, especially the Košice part, which is the Institute of Experimental Physics, they are participating in a variety of large-scale international missions, as for example the recently launched JUICE, where they are also contributing with a part of the payload. And then there is universities as Comenius University, focusing mainly on space safety, Technical University in Bratislava and Košice, both focusing mainly on small satellite missions, and in some case also satellite component development, or even from the downstream point of view, Earth observation area, and some other smaller universities around the country. So it's quite diverse geographically. The third part, which I already touched upon a bit, is diversification. Here we've been working on this particular strategy since 2019, when we started practically approaching the terrestrial company automotive sector, which is very strong in Slovakia, from mechanical engineering, electronics, and ICT. And this has proved to be quite a successful strategy, how to build up a base for an emerging space ecosystem with a smaller number of companies, and how to bring technologically strong terrestrial companies which have competitive solutions towards space. Next slide, please. Yes, and this is the setup of Slovak Space Office. So a disclaimer for the beginning: Slovak Space Office, it's not a legal entity. It's a project between two governmental institutions, between two ministries. I like to call it governmental joint venture. So it's between the Ministry of Education, Science, Research and Sport, which covers the policy side mainly, and the space budget, and some institutional commitments like ESA. And then there is Ministry of Economy, or in more particular, Slovak Investment and Trade Development Agency, which is us. And we cover the broad ecosystem development, so everything I was about bringing companies to sector, working with startups, having incubation program, organizing hackathons, consulting companies how to enter, but also consulting the technology transfer and supporting collaboration between academia and business, and linking these two worlds to synergetically move things forward. Then we are working and we are responsible for the international cooperation development for Slovak space companies and academia. So we engage in agency-to-agency cooperation. We engage with agency business cooperation, and basically we try to get in touch and work together with any international entity that has interest, either collaborate with Slovak entities or set up their direct footprint in our country. And we also work on outreach activities to make sure that our growing space sector has, for the future, enough talent pool to work with. Next slide, please. Yeah, our strategy very briefly. So first of all, we try to utilize the full potential of the whole space ecosystem. Hence, what I started with, taking broad look at where the potential can come from. We are a small country, therefore we cannot afford wasting the potential. Secondly, it's diversifying the funding sources and markets. I already mentioned 2 platforms through which most of the funding of the project is going through. That's ESA and EU, but also it's about targeting economically and business interesting new markets which are being created on a purely commercial basis. And thirdly, it's building a strong and competitive international position in the sector, where we try to focus on coming up to international cooperation with some unique niche technological solutions that can contribute especially to the joint European efforts in space. Next slide, please. Very briefly about our track record as governmental agency. So the Slovak Space Office was created only 2 years ago in 2021, but our agency under Ministry of Economy, have been working on space area for about 4 years already. And by this time, we almost doubled the number of companies, or most of them were entering the sector with our support. And we were behind in some particular nature, about 35 local and international collaboration projects. Next slide, please. A snapshot of what we are doing. So again, organizing hackathons, we have incubation program, we are doing a lot of international consulting, also connected to large international events. We've been managing the whole Space Week for Slovak Pavilion in Expo Dubai. We are at every IAC, every ESA Industry Space Days, and right now we have a Slovak industry booth at Le Bourget Paris Air Show with our colleagues and some companies. So you can meet us quite frequently. Next slide, please. This is our major own event, Emerging Space, focusing especially on emerging space ecosystems. Next time you can see it in 2 years from now, because it was this year. Next slide, please. I think I'm already quite through the time, so I will try to go fast. You can track everything what's going on around us on our LinkedIn page or website. Next slide, please. And yes, so we are ready for your landing. We try to support international partnership creation, both with industry and academia. So if in case you have any questions, or you would like to know more about the possibility of collaborating or basing your activities in Slovakia, we're always happy to support. Next slide, please. And this is how you can reach me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for that, Michal. So I believe while we bring up the next speaker, just a quick question while we do this. So you've mentioned international cooperation, and I suspect that academic collaborations are a very good opportunity for that. So I suspect that that's one of the drivers. The other question I have is, you mentioned various sources of funding, and I understand that you guys are not a legal entity at the moment. So I suspect the answer is no. But is there any local funding that the Slovak government is proposing, or that is available, that could be of interest to scientists and industry who might want to collaborate?
So we are not a legal entity as Slovak Space Office, but Slovak Space Office is composed of legal entities. So for example, when we talk about our side, so we are called, colloquially, we are usually called the industry branch, but we also work with academia. We, for example, have funding tools for collaboration support, especially when it comes to business missions or when it comes to funding some exhibitions. So, for example, right now, the colleagues which are in Paris, it's a funded support for the companies. In this case, it's only companies, but in general, all the activities that we do not divide between industry and academia. We are working with both sides. We are supporting both sides with consultancy. Even the space incubation program, which we have, is very intensively done in collaboration with universities and also our Academy of Sciences. So we also try to motivate the faculties at our universities and also institutes in Academy of Sciences to work actively with startups and possibly and ideally also motivate their researchers to create startups.
Thank you very much. So Yoga, what's the next?
Next up, we have Jančo from ERIM Solutions, who's presenting online.
Okay, and I believe that Robert would like to join us afterwards. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? So first of all, thank you very much for having a possibility to present M2M solutions in such audium, and sorry for not being with you. I see that you have really mild weather and you are in some really nice location. I don't know where, but probably somewhere in the nature. So I'm happy for you to be there. And next time, hopefully, I will be with you. I will try to share my screen. Okay. My presentation should be visible for you. Is it so or not?
And just 1 second. Yes. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I have... Okay. Okay, so I have a little bit problem with this animation. So company M2M Solutions is, as you can see, already 11th year on the market. We as a company are focused to process automation, especially in logistic. We are focused to manufacturing sites which are located in Slovakia, but also over the Europe. And we are providing solutions which are really focused to logistic, from navigation of trucks on the way to the factory till the bringing the components to the production line. So there are many systems. For example, one of the most common we are having as a product is warehouse management system, but there are many which are somehow helping to drive processes in logistic efficiently. And in 2019 we started to be active also in ESA. Also in cooperation with ESA in space domain. It was frankly to say the first touch of space. I will try to show you some projects we are working on so far, and I will start from the end, from the last project we have been working on, mainly due to the reason that this is real diversification of our portfolio into space domain, and we are very happy that our proposal for ESA to make some kind of state-of-the-art in logistic for a space sector has been awarded, and we got go for implementation. I think it spent us about 2 years of discussion with the space companies, especially with space system integrators, about let's say the customization of standard logistic portfolio for the space, and we find some things which could help, especially to space system integrators, to make their work easier and more efficient. And we defined some buzzwords or some points where we want to extend our warehouse management system to be fitting for the space domain. So first of all, we are focused to to multi-warehouse options, so that one space integrator can see the material or components needed for his project. He's driving also in partners' warehouses, and he can have the real-time information about the situation, if component is bought, if it's on the way to the warehouse, or if it's already stored in the warehouse waiting for the usage. We find also the problems of central purchasing of components, which we try to touch, or we are trying to touch with our approach, and also some other parts which are related to last time buy coordination or tracking components, or some substitution management in field of space. So this is the last project we will start, or we are working. We have prepared this for 2 years, and we will start this project based on ESA go in the end of this year. Currently, the most important project from space for us is SNAV, Smart Space Exploration Navigation. This is project which is led by iTubes, which is technology transfer company, which is built up on the University of Braunschweig. Our goal is to develop and test hardware and software platform for the future space exploration missions. And M2M Solutions is responsible for, first of all, for the visual navigation of the device on the other planet. And also we are providing drones demonstration for the whole project. So in fact, we will test all devices in loop in Earth condition with usage of our drone demonstrator. And this project has been or received the funding from EU Horizon Europe fund. The third thing we are working on, and we will finish soon, hopefully this summer or in the autumn, is the ground station scheduling broker. Here the story is that we as M2M Solutions are coming from the Siemens, and we were in the past developing the GSM technology for Siemens. So we are quite good in telecommunication, and we foreseen the problem in downloading data from the space, because we were solving such a problem with the mobile phones 20 years ago. So we have some know-how in this area, and we are trying to touch a little bit also the shared economy, because we believe that there are many ground stations, especially at the universities over the world, which are not utilized and could be used in our ground station scheduling broker in order to create a huge network of ground stations over the world. We would like to give this the owners of the ground stations possibility to earn some money based on providing their ground station for downloading data. And the most crucial part of this system is automation, so that that system itself is scheduling downloads without needs of operator on one or other side, so that it can touch and set the ground station and provide the data to the end user. So this is the project we are working on. I saw, let's say, first versions is already running on the server. We are just finalizing some parts, and we would like to also continue with this project later this year. In the end of this year, we would like to apply for another funding. Next phase should end with real real online work of this platform together with first ground station integrated and fully working. So this is the third project we are working from the space domain. And actually, I think this is all I wanted to present to you. So if it was interesting for you, don't hesitate to contact me. We will be happy to enhance our cooperation in space. And that's it from my side. So thank you very much for your time. If there are any questions, please.
So thank you. It was very interesting. Actually, while we load the next speaker, actually it's interesting you mentioned about this ground station broker, because actually we found out a lot of, with the coming of the new space, right? A lot of universities or small companies are thinking about small CubeSat satellites, but they're, especially scientists, are thinking more about the science, but not about the ground station, right? And they find themselves in the position that they are doing a CubeSat, but then they need to figure out how are they going to download all the data and all this. So this is very useful, I think, for them. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was wondering also, do you collaborate with academia?
Yes, yes, we are collaborating with academia. So referring to CNOW projects, we are collaborating with TT Tech and iTubes, which are a spin-off of academia. TT Tech is from Vienna and iTubes from Braunschweig. In Slovakia, we are cooperating mainly with University of Žilina. Also on the CNOW project, we have two university professors somehow incorporated into the team, mainly in the role of experts and yeah. So the easy answer is yes. We are cooperating also in Slovakia with academia, with the University of Žilina.
Okay, thank you. So do we have next speaker?
Yeah,
Robert. Yeah. Okay, next speaker will be Robert Hill from the Northern Ireland Space Office. So you can unmute.
Yeah, certainly. So thank you very much for inviting me along. Robert Hill, Director of the Northern Ireland Space Office. It's a not-for-profit body based in the region, part of the UK. I work very closely with the UK Space Agency as the cluster manager and chair of the Northern Ireland Space Leadership Council, and work closely, obviously, with the local companies and academics to try and grow a cluster. Now, if you can go to the slides, please. So I suppose, first of all, in a region in Northern Ireland, why are we getting involved in the wider space sector? Why are we getting involved in these programs? Well, if you look back at the history of Northern Ireland, it has a very strong heritage in engineering. It used to be known as the Black North. And you look back, you think of shipbuilding, very, very well known for shipbuilding. Of course, probably the most famous ship that ever left our sides of the water was the Titanic. We have a very old saying here about the Titanic. It was okay when it left us, okay? But you can imagine the amount of engineering prowess that was built, designed to create that ship, to create the dry docks, to develop this world-class large ship. And from that, there was a lot of the local supply chain was developed, even back then. Then if you come forward, you come to the Shorts brothers. And if you think of Bombardier, now Spirit Aerosystems in Northern Ireland, it's not the largest group in the world, but the SAFE in Northern Ireland, in Belfast, actually hosts the first ever commercial signing by an aircraft by the Wright brothers. So we're not the largest in the world, but we're definitely the oldest. And as a result, here we go. As a result, we have built up an ecosystem of engineering and excellence in aerospace and defense. So it is naturally just a progression for us to move into the wider space sector. Now, within the UK, we are steadily growing. These are figures from 2017, where it showed we had over sort of 20 companies. we now have over 55 large companies in Northern Ireland developing space programs. Coupled with that, we have two of the large primes. We have Spirit Aerosystems and we have Thales. In fact, Northern Ireland hosts, thank you, yes, just go to that Thales screen.
Sorry.
That one, yeah. So Thales now in Northern Ireland hosts the Electric Propulsion Centre. And this is where the next generation of electric propulsion systems for Thales-Alenia Space will be developed. So it's a large clean room. Now, overall, over 2 billion in sales. But what about the Northern Ireland side? So next slide, please. Let's get in there. So we're part of the piece that is doing the integration and the development of the electric propulsion systems, mostly for the telecoms industry. Thales-Alenia Space in the UK is now looking at Northern Ireland very closely as the potential area of doing a centre of excellence for all of Europe. And this is very important for us because it develops those skill sets coming out of both of our world-class universities, which are, of course, Queen's University Belfast and Ulster University. Next slide, please. And just to give you an idea, there's now over 6 propulsion systems being built. You can see them on the screen there, with another at least 3 missions in the pipeline. And this is an interesting story because if you go back before Thales-Alenia Space came into Northern Ireland, we had the Thales facility, which is historically a missile building integration facility. We were in conversations with our American colleagues at Aerojet Rocketdyne, and the original idea in Northern Ireland was to recreate what they were doing around the ion thrust propulsion systems in Northern Ireland for the European market. Unfortunately, that never took place. But it was the catalyst for Thales-Alenia Space to look at Northern Ireland and ask the questions, well, why are we not doing anything? And here we now are 5-6 years later with a very significant presence within the electric propulsion sector and developing those skills across the sector for Europe. Next slide, please. And we also have a whole range of SMEs, small to medium-sized enterprises now getting engaged. As I said, we've grown the aerospace and defense and cyber supply chain, but it is really the small local firms, the family-owned firms that are going to be crucial to this overall infrastructure development. And I'm going to choose just some of the companies, give you an idea, a small company called Springco. Now, as the name suggests, they build springs of various sizes for agriculture, for a wide range of industries, and they've now got involved in the space sector. In actual fact, they now have springs on Mars. So I think this is a fantastic story. If you go to the next slide, because it shows that it's the very smallest companies. These are companies, less than 50 people, so really on the more micro, the SME side, they can actually develop and compete in space with their larger counterparts, really creating these new energies and synergies that allow us to grow the infrastructure beyond the primes and the large-scale ESA, NASA type missions. And this company has now gone on to just having their springs launched on JUICE, now obviously on its way to Jupiter over the next few years, and on Bepi Colombo and a range of other deployable mechanisms in space. So it's a great story to show how a small company with innovation and expertise can actually get involved within the space sector. Next slide, please. And what we have done here in Northern Ireland to catalyze this is create a program. It's a catalyst program called STEP, the Space Technology Exploitation Program. In honesty, this is nothing new. It is a derivative of the NATEP program, which has existed for years in the UK. NATEP is the National Aerospace Technology Exploitation Program, which is used by the primes and tier ones in the aerospace industry to look at the opportunities and where they would be outsourcing the programs of activity, finding the SMEs that can do that, and then the NATEP program provides funding, catalyst funding, for those small companies to reach TRL level. Now, it's a bit of funding involved, they get cash, but it is more the opportunity to engage with the prime, which is important. So this is a very new activity funded by the UK Space Agency and hosted by ADS in the UK, which is the Aerospace Defence Security and Space Trade Group. And just last week at SpaceCom at Farnborough, if any of you were there, we announced that there were 3 winners. So we now have 3 programs, very simple, 3 programs going through the STEP program. One in cyber, one in MOSFET chip design, and one in augmented reality for deep space missions. And these Catalyst programs will continue over the next 2 years to March 2025. And the UK Space Agency is seeing this as a program piloted in Northern Ireland that can then be taken out across the rest of the UK. So this could become one of the mechanisms that the UK Space Agency is using to grow the national space strategy, something that is actually tangible, will provide results and create growth of the industry across the UK. Next step, please. Another example of one of our companies is Andor, which is now part of Oxford Instruments. This is high precision imaging cameras, mainly predominantly used. Their business is in the medical world. But if you look to the next slide, through that innovation, they've now created astronomical and astrophysics cameras, a wide range, because the very low noise cameras allow them to look for the faintest photons coming from space. More importantly, and more recently, they're involved now in space situational awareness, because the same algorithms that we use to look for debris in space, you need to have that precision camera. So these cameras are now being deployed. So this is a medical device company now deploying their expertise and knowledge into the space sector. Next slide, please. This is one of the companies I'm just mentioning here, Skytech, using augmented reality in assembly, integration, and testing. Why is this important? Because the ESA regulations are going to change over time. And what we are doing is moving to augmented reality, where a remote operator can show ESA that they are complying with the regulations. Not only does the augmented reality allow the user of the technology to identify exactly what wire or what drill hole or what bolt goes where with another operator on the other side of the planet, pointing directly to that point, but it's more about having the evidence and compliance mechanisms that the companies need. So the companies such as Airbus and Thales would use these systems. Next slide, please. I'm not aware of how much time I have here, by the way, Chair.
You've got about 2 minutes left.
Oh, 2 minutes. Okay. So forward again, please. And this is just some of the examples. Other examples of what we are looking at here are companies like KX, which is a fintech company, billion plus profit per year, now using their technology, the KX technology, to look at the large amounts of data coming from space and actually give you real-time insights to what you see. So this is very much in the space and defense arena, where microseconds make a difference. So this is taking technology that has been used for the last 20 years, big data technology in fintech for the stock markets, now being applied to the space sector. Forward again, please. And of course, we have a very strong academic and research base at Queen's University. The School of Mechanical Engineering hosts the NERCSAT, small satellite engineering design course. We've now had over 150 graduates over 5 years going through how to design, manufacture, and test small sats and CubeSats. This is a really interesting development for us. Ulster University is very much in the telemedicine and the space medicine side of programs. So very active in the community when you consider there are only 1.7 million people in the region. Forward again, please, Chair. And very importantly for the public sector, we've just received funding from the UK Space Agency to work with the public sector in Northern Ireland to create an Earth observation portal and hub. This is now part of the Earth Observation Steering Group. So all 9 departments within Northern Ireland have joined up to look at how can they utilize space and satellite technologies in their everyday work. And what we're doing now is we're creating the case studies, looking at the fidelity of the imagery we get, what granularity do we need. Over the next 2 years, we'll be creating this hub. This is where the public sector will use the satellite data. It's nothing new, it's been talked about before, but actually really give us case studies showing how can you save money using satellite data and resources. So these are the wider programs that we're looking at. And we'll not move forward any further, Chair, but very importantly, to save the date for Northern Ireland. I'm just showing you in summary, yep. Save the date for Northern Ireland. 21st to 23rd of November this year is the UK Space Conference being hosted at the ICC in Belfast. This is not just a UK conference, it is a global conference. We're expecting over 1,600 delegates from around the world to descend upon Belfast And obviously, everyone in the room will be delighted for you to come and join with us to network and enjoy the pre-Christmas festivities. Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry, that was a lot in 10 minutes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rob, for accelerating and for delivering this very helpful presentation. And thank you for highlighting specifically the areas of collaboration with academia and industry. So I think at this point, we'll be moving on to the next speaker, Andres Catalan from the Aerospace platform in Spain.
Andres, can you go ahead?
Well, let me. I don't want to speak a lot. I have prepared a presentation, but I can use as a guide to the explanation. But don't expect too much of my presentation. I mean, so to review for all the attendees that doesn't know exactly what is the importance of the Spain in the space sector, we are reasonably important country in the space area. So we are the 5th European country for contribution to ESA and to ESA budget. And now the turnover is about 900 million, employing approximately 4,000 people, with an important expenditure in R&D. And we are present in all the value chain of the sector, from satellite operators that are not only working in Spain, but also in South America or in other countries. And we have prime integrators like with Airbus. They have an important presence in Spain, Thales, Alenia as well. There are big companies doing big systems like GMB or Indra. We have an important presence also in the ground station segment, components, and we are now starting to be present not only as a supplier for launchers, but also to manufacture our own launcher. We are now about to have the first launch of people that try to emulate to SpaceX and the Falcon 9. Okay. We as a company, well, we are not exactly a company, we are an association of companies. And we play the role of the platforms that are in other parts of Europe are already present. No? So we try to put together companies, industries, universities, and R&D centers. The idea is there are too many ideas. One is to create the strategic research agendas in such a way that our administration could create the plans for the technology plans, and they can be based in something prepared by the whole sector, and this is the role of the strategic agendas. And the second objective is to put together all the sector and to try to create R&D projects and new solutions between all the people. So between academia, industries, and technological centers. We have the role of industrial officer for the span in the Portugal Spanish hub of Europlanet Society. We have also in Spain after the pandemic, we have launched an important strategic plan for aerospace with about 5,000 million euros of launch in between private and public funding. there are three main line of activity in this strategic plan. For aeronautics, focus on decarbonization and zero emission aircraft for sure, but also for space, and space is related to constellations, launchers, and also the part that we are playing the big satellites. And one thing that has also been quite important in Spain for the media and for the public attention has been to create the creation of our own space agency that is new and has bring a lot of proud of the Spanish community to have this agency. And now they are in the starting phase. And also we have about to launch our first real launcher. Well, we always think that the strategic is the space is strategic. This is recognized by the European Union with the space strategy. There is a lot of things that we have to take care in related to space. Is the importance of space in the economy, and also to bring research competitiveness and the benefits that would provide to the society on this development. The space access to the infrastructures, the security, and space traffic management, and space debris control, and so on. So there is a lot of things now. The ESA has in the last ministerial conference in Paris has approved an important budget for the whole community, and in particular also for science. For science, we are talking about around 5 billion, and talking about pure science, but also for the exploratory program. And also they have in mind, and in the that on the 1st of July there starts the Spain is the rotatory presidency of the European Union, and they are planned to have related to this president, they are going to have a big event in Sevilla in November, and it could be also announced an important program for human travel to space. So be able for the Europe, that this is one thing that we have not be able to launch people to space. And this is there is an important program that now is under discussion and could be with a lot of budget. Well, the final thing I want to share with you, and maybe we can use to discussion. So we for sure we consider the relationship and the collaboration in between academia and industry is essential, is mandatory. We think that the organization like our platform is try facilitates this collaboration, because we put together everything. And one thing that maybe we can put on discussion here in this forum is the possibility to have a forum between academia and industries to discuss about challenges to projects, the possibility to have what kind of resources we can have in Europe to provide these kind of things. If the budget is, if we could use new space, new states programs to invest to this kind of research. This is one thing. Also, other activity that we can do together is to have a complete mapping of all academia skills and industrial skills or capabilities for space in the domains that we consider that we could address, and maybe this is also under discussion. And nothing else. The last point is that on top of what all I have already said, there is an additional a specific program in all around Spain, in not only in the central government but also in our local governments. And that's all I wanted to say to you.
Yeah. Thank you. While we bring the next speaker, thank you, Andres, for the presentation. Actually, I like your last slide that you present some proposals, right, on how to do this, because actually when I was reading the talk, when I saw you want to bring together the role of the Plataforma Aeroespacial is companies of all sizes, university, labs, clusters, right? This is a whole ensemble of of actors with different needs, so it's not easy, right? So it will be interesting to see how you guys do it, what you feel that works well, what doesn't, and also we hear also about we already hear a few talks now about how to foster the knowledge transfer between academia and industries. It will be very nice to hear from all the actors actually how they do it, what they find that works and what doesn't. I don't know if you want to comment very briefly on this, Andres.
Well, it's difficult. It's not easy our intention is to bring to promote this transfer of knowledge in between everybody. And the way to doing this is not easy. So yeah, we have to have forums, to have workshops, documents. We try to involve everybody in doing some documents for technological priorities we have in Spain. We are working in databases that could be used to find partners in the different projects that arise, and when we work on this, and for that I think we are doing a relevant job, because we are not only looking for partners in our network of companies that now we are 127. Not only in ours, but also in other related networks, like the small clusters and so on. So we do that, but it's not easy. I can assure you know better than me that it's not easy, but we are working, and this is our objective. Yeah.
We will discuss that maybe more in the discussion session. So next speaker. Yeah, thank you very much, Andres, again.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, next speaker is Carlos Granja from ADVACAM. So.
Okay, thank you. Hope you hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So thank you to the organizers. ADVACAM is a spin-off, high-tech SME in Prague, Czech Republic, from the Czech Technical University Science Center, and the CERN Medipix collaboration, which produced these sophisticated or high-resolution ASIC chips, which is the core technology for all this development, which I am showing here. We have also a branch office in Finland, and together we provide, we design and manufacture the whole technology change for this technology. Again, this is advanced or innovative radiation cameras. That's our name, advanced cameras, including also applications in close cooperation with industry, and also with in space with the European Space Agency and NASA, to whom we are supplier. We sell them cameras and in different configurations. A quick overview: non-space, which is a bigger market for us. We developed innovative solutions in various technology areas like X-ray diffraction, X-ray imaging, CT, micro CTs, electron microscopy, non-destructive testing. I will show some word very quickly. To show us the type of activities and applications and new developments. Actually, we founded a new spin-off from us devoted to this work. Is a miniaturized, fully autonomous UAV, a drone using the detector and evaluating the data, so to localize radiation sources in open spaces for contamination, for leaks, or even for dirty bombs. So this is the type of work we do. There are some images here. The whole device is autonomous, so the detector with the data starts to control the drone to make optimize tracking of sources and so on. And we can pass more information. Another one is development of a fully autonomous handheld device for staff, radiation staff, including this feature that we have with the detectors of online visualization of the radiation field, which also astronauts on the ISS, International Space Station, from NASA use to understand, to have immediate feedback of the radiation field, which is our field. This is another one, is non-destructive testing, the whole system, including these robots, to perform enhanced resolution with enhanced contrast imaging and visualization of microstructures, of cracks, and quality assurance of aerospace components. So Blue Origin and also Boeing are our customers, and we even ship and build these full scanners with our detector imager systems, also to USA and also customers in Europe, of course. But this is the focus of this talk. So I will give a short overview of the applications and the fields and technologies that we are developing for space. There are four various on the left, I show in green, the topics. Let's say the two first are more applied research, radiation effects on satellites and components, but also the shielding and the online radiation dosimetry. Space Crew is a program of NASA with our detectors, as I will show quickly. And the two other is science, which I understood is the focus of these events. Space weather, solar physics, everything that has to do with ionizing radiation. And then science itself, astrophysics, X-ray, cosmic rays, and so on. On the right, you see one of our devices configured for space for the NASA moon lander and for the future moon or lunar orbiting space station, which is called Gateway. It's the development of NASA together with ESA and also Canada and Japan space agencies. And we are developing customized online radiation system for Europe for ESA, which will fly on board of this Gateway when it will be launched in a few years. This is my contact. Just feel free to contact or to ask for any. And as I was following this event, and I have this slide, a lot of, or almost everything of all our developments are done in close cooperation with academy, with universities, with industry. Yes, and this is just a main summary of our space activities, starting with the research center at the Czech Technical University, which is a member of the Medipix CERN Corporation, the Czech Aerospace Center, which built the Czech CubeSats, the second one in orbit. Well, the first one was just decommissioned after 7 years, also with the detector from the university. The Czech Technical University, NASA, to whom we supply devices, the European Space Agency does my work to implement these detectors for satellites and also for the Gateway, as I mentioned, and some science groups, for example, from Portugal. And so OneWeb, this large company, I will show on the slide, and the bottom is a group in USA for the NASA moon lander using our detector from Prague, our solution. Let me see if I can move. This is just to show this CubeSat is the last one from Czech Republic, from Czechspace. It was launched in January last year and it's operating. The detector is there, part as a science technology demonstrator from another company in Czech Republic. This is an X-ray and gamma ray imager for astrophysics. Yes, ambitious to be developed on a CubeSat platform, so there are clear technology advantages for space. This is data from our detector on LEO orbit on board this Veselusa, the Czech CubeSat, the second one. Here, this is what we do. We measure and detect with high resolution and unique sensitivity, which I call it quantum imaging detection, and this spectral sensitive particle tracking, which are unique tools to determine and characterize mixed radiation fields in space, also in particle radiotherapy and in other applications on ground, of course. This is the layout of the batches of our devices supplied to NASA directly already several years ago, and NASA certified themselves to perform this high resolution wide range. There are several advantages, parameters there for astronauts, and they are attached on different modules, on different computers of NASA astronauts. So this is our work. This is one of our last developments. Actually, was launched last month, exactly on 20th of May. And this is OneWeb. It's a large telecommunication and satellite provider from USA, but also from UK. And in one of actually was their last launch, a month ago exactly, they had also an experimental satellite. It's called like this, JoySat, actually pretty large, and it had several technologies that developed themselves, and they require, and we have a contract with them, so they pay us for this. And you see the photo of the device. It's necessary in space for satellites, as I was mentioning, the first application, radiation effects, to measure and monitor radiation very precisely. with our device, which these parameters, small, low power, and this feature that it has to characterize different radiations is a unique solution that we are providing for industry. For example, this one. These photos from this telecommunication satellite, which is flying and the detector is operating. This is also to show, going back to science, this is a wide field of view gamma ray tracker for astrophysics for a group in Coimbra in Portugal with our detectors. Again, it's a contract, and this will fly on the Space Rider. This is a spaceship that will fly about 2 months in orbit, non-manned and manned vehicle. And it's a return capsule, so it has this significant science importance. So it will have several scientific experiments, and this is one of the selected experiments. This is the illustration of the gateway, which I mentioned. This is the layout of the whole lunar space station, which is very ambitious. On the right, you can see, if you may see the mouse, it's an illustration of the orbit. It will orbit 1 week around the moon in this highly eccentric orbit. So the radiation field and natural particles from microgravity, and so as a fit for physics and for science, this is very unique and a big challenge also for operations and space engineering. So the detectors are being implemented there, one inside, this is directly ours, and the other one outside for space weather from the Prague University group. This is how the device looks from us, developed, implemented for NASA, moon lander, and also partly in this configuration for interface for ESA for the gateway. Especially you can see how important for space, how the mass, etc. So these are parameters. And
sorry to interrupt you. You have 1 minute remaining.
Sure. Yes, I'm almost finished. I'm finished. And this is the illustration for the NASA moon lander, which is ongoing. Is the lander and also the orbiter, yes, that will carry this detector. And these are again contracts. So for industry, and we are in, I think, a case of what's called technology and knowledge transfer. So it's I think a good example. And then as I understood, as I was following, the focus is science. Actually, this year, 2 months ago, there was a major conference on science with the small satellites, which I attended. It's this COSPAR Committee for Space Research, which holds this event, in particular with a focus on science. And I attended, and in fact, there will be a special issue of the Advances in Space Research journal by Elsevier, which will have the time now in October. So the communication, the info is there. You have a copy of my presentation. I uploaded, so just feel free to share it to relevant science group. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Carlos, for this excellent presentation. We'll, of course, be disseminating the content of this presentation to the participants at the end of this session. I think for the interest of time, I will skip straight to Lukáš, if that's okay, and skip the question for now, because we've got not much time left for finishing this session. But if you could stay behind for the discussion session after the coffee break, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see if we can see the screen. But it has some delay, but that will be fine. Thank you all for this opportunity to present us. I'm Lukáš Láni, project manager from Touch for IT. We call ourselves innovation house. So we are software developers and designers. We have more than 250 finished projects, and currently we are more than 70 people in-house. With our solutions used mainly in Europe, but we have some solutions applied in US, Africa, or Japan. Our capabilities, I will focus mainly on the software development and product design. We focus on helping our customers create digital products, so anything which should be used or proposed to customers in the end, and which will utilize some kind of IT equipment. That's something for us. We do some other services, but this is the core which can be applied for the space. And here we have one project which we did as part of PEX program with ESA, where we made software solution called SGAT, which is acronym of S-Bus Geometry Analyze Tool, which is mostly designed for S-Bus engineers to carry out geometry analyze of satellite constellations and ground stations to conduct the analysis of orbits plus ionosphere. With this tool, they are able to conduct the analysis which previously took them about 2 weeks. Now they are able to finish it within hours. Here is the showcase how this can work. Again, a bit of a delay as it goes through internet there, but it's slightly laggy. But basically, the user can define ground stations, can define constellations of satellites, and then conduct analysis of line of sights, visibility windows, and some more. So basically, we did user-oriented design, which helps to finish work much faster and more effectively. And as I mentioned, we combine multiple tools into one, so the analysis can be done much faster. Currently, we are finishing projects. We just passed through final review, and now we're planning to extend features and do customizations for new customers with features like spot planning, RF spectrum analysis, possibly some of your scientific data presentation. We have a feature in mind for multi-beam beamforming, specifically addressing some needs in communication and navigation, and as well inter-satellite link features, as with increasing demand for constellations. Those need to communicate within the space. This is we see the need for this. If this is interesting for you, and you might want to have some features implemented, we will be more than happy to talk about it and find the common ground for cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lukáš, for this presentation. I think the next speaker will be Alexandra from C3S. So I'll pass the mic back in a second. Thanks again.
So hello everyone, thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. My name is Alexandra Szell and I'm representing C3S, and I'm asking you what to help me with the presentation. He's already there. So our company was established 10 years ago by the developers of the first Hungarian satellite, which is a one-new CubeSat called MASAT-1. And since that, we are focusing on two major areas in space industry. One is CubeSat platform development, and the other one is large satellite power systems. We put a lot of effort on thermal design, and we are also providing a turnkey solution for our CubeSat or small satellite customers. That means that we have a ground station, mission operating center. We are operating our satellites in case it is needed. We have an in-house manufacturing capability. We have ESA certified hand soldering people, and we can proceed the whole development, manufacturing, and testing processes. We have a high heritage on a lot of ESA technology domains. Some words about our large satellite background. We are on those projects. We are mainly working for ESA and on large-scale integrator projects. We have several custom DC-DC converter design. We are developing power supply units, and we are also have done some componentry work activities for higher manufacturing. And we are also able to design FPGA-based control unit and control systems. Next slide, please. Some words about our satellite heritage. We developed our platform together with ESA actually on a scientific mission about space weather monitoring. C3S was the prime of RADCube. That means that since 2021 we are our satellite, and we are the proud member of ESA satellite fleet. That satellite is still on orbit and functional, absolutely functional. I saw the pass today as I started to travel here, and everything was fine. After the satellite platform, we started to work on as we are quite okay with the robustness of the platform itself, so we wanted to make it a bit more clever, and we are working on an AI onboard solution, which was launched some weeks ago. Has an Earth observation camera and running two different kind of AI softwares on board, mainly for cloud detection purposes. Our next satellite will be a drought monitoring system, actually a quite important scientific mission for the region, as climate change causes a lot of damage on agriculture, and we are working with Hungarian universities on that project. We are also working on a satellite tracking system, which can be interesting for cooperation. I already get that feeling. That's a helping subsystem for a small satellite and sending precise GPS data down to Earth, and helping for CubeSats for the time until they are not tracked by NORAD. That means at the very first stage of the separation. And also later on it can be helped for tracking the satellites itself. And we are also working on a 16U platform together with the Blue Sky Space, and I think Marcell will tell you a bit more about that project. We closed 12 ESA projects already. We have more than 30 subsystem designs. We already spent around 60 months in space, and we are around 40 people. Next slide, please. Some words about our platform. We are focusing on robustness and reliability in that field. Our platform is single point failure tolerant and it has a double redundancy in all subsystems that lets us to tell that this satellite will work because not all the satellites are working after the deployment. We followed tailored ECSS standards together with ESA during the development. We have a stackable design, which also similar to large satellite design, and also let us use to scale up our satellite and also help us to have a different internal mechanical layout. That means we can host a large telescope or a lot of small sensors as well. Next slide, please. I already mentioned our current project called ALL. That's a very small tracking system which can be inserted in any kind of satellite actually, and we also have a ground station network for that, for continuously tracking for the satellites. It's a bit different than the current version, where mainly Earth-based radar data is used for that. Next slide, please. I already told you some words about our current mission, Miro. It's a 3U satellite. Our next 6U satellite will be launched this October, and we are also working on more. Next slide, please. Just click.
Sorry.
Okay, and I'm here, so anyone would like to speak with me, I'm available, and I'm also sharing my presentation, so you will have my contact. And for the finish, I had some summaries brought to this place for you. These are the first images of our satellite captured last week, and actually it was during the testing of the camera, so it is not the final one, but I think it is still beautiful and shows how beautiful our Earth is. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexandra, for that very good presentation. We will have time for questions and discussions after the coffee breaks. I propose that we go to the last speaker for this session, Ondrej from OHB, Czechspace.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am here to tell about to say a few words about the SOVA and HERA mission. Next slide, please. OHB Czechspace was founded in 2018. It's a part of the OHB group. The main projects are the HERA, Plateau, and CO2. We are a team of 27 engineers located in Brno in Czech Republic. Next slide, please. So let's start about the SOVA mission. So the subject of SOVA mission is to measure the gravity waves. The ground segment will be done in Czech Republic. The launch segment is currently not the big AC, but the RFA1 that's outdated. The orbit is selected for the sun-synchronous orbit of the altitude 550 kilometers. And I will talk about the space segment in the next slides. So next slide, please. Let's talk a bit, maybe we skipped one. Oh, is it this? Yes. I would like to introduce you into the atmospheric gravity waves. So these waves are very similar as the waves are on the ocean or as they are in the atmosphere. The atmospheric gravity waves are propagating through the atmosphere in the altitude of 60 to 300 kilometers. and they transport energy and momentum over large distances in the atmosphere without a net mass transport. Currently, they are not included in the mathematical models of the atmosphere, and we would like to enhance the weather prediction with these. In the upper below picture, you can see the gravity wave picture taken from the NASA Terra satellite. And that's all for this slide. Next slide, please. Can we go to the, yes. We use the electron excitation status of the gravity waves, so we can measure them with this spectra. That's the right picture. And the left picture is also the picture of the gravity wave. Next slide, please. I would like to give you some mission overview. SOVA is a Czech small-sat mission observing the atmospheric gravity waves, and the secondary objective is to measure the radiation in low Earth orbit. The consortium is consisting of the Czechspace as a prime contractor, Institute of Atmospheric Physics, Czech Academy of Sciences as a main investigator of science, MEOPTA, Czech optic company as a main instrument investigator, then OHB System, DLR, and Institute of Jülich in Germany. The partners are Institute of Nuclear Physics, Czech Academy of Sciences, and the Czech Aerospace Research Center. And the customer is ESA and the Czech Ministry of Transportation. We are currently closing the phase A in next month. I would like to give you some funny story behind this project. So the project was at first the ITT proposal, but the funny part was that we didn't have the science for the project, so we had to call scientists to find science for this project. Yeah. So it was a bit it was not the usual approach as it's normal. The current technical baseline is propulsionless design in cooperation with Czech Aerospace Research Center, deployable solar panels with triple junction crosser solar cells with the SADM solar array drive mechanisms, S-band communication, 2 cameras, one facing nadir, one facing limb, and ground station provided by Czech company. Next slide, please. So in the picture below, you can see the nadir camera and the limb camera on the picture. So the mission lifetime is currently for the 2 years, and the orbit is 550 kilometers with mean local time on ascending node 1030. We are having 2 optical instruments, both measuring air glow, and the total mass of the satellite will be roughly around 150 kilograms, power around 115 watts, and the lifetime is 2 years. The mission operations center will be at the Czech Aerospace Institute, and the payload science data center will be both in Czech Academy of Sciences and at DLR. Next slide, please. This slide is talking a bit about SOVA subsystems. So I told you many times that the mass is 150 kilograms, roughly. Dimensions are to fit the RFA1 envelope. So 664, 698 by 200 millimeters. And the start of the mission will be in the first quarter of 2028. The structure is divided into 4 modules, and those modules are manufactured or will be manufactured from the aluminum, and the panels will be done from the CFRP composite. We are having 2 autonomous onboard computers, 1 nominal and 1 hot redundant. And for the AFCS, we are using 4 reaction wheels and 3 magnetworks that are internally redundant. For the power, we are using 2 deployable solar panels with 168 solar cells gaining 400 watts in total. The thermal subsystem, we are using heaters due to precise optical temperature stability and Peltiers, and communication is in S-band only because the satellite is providing 380 megabytes per day, so that's sufficient for S-band only approach. Next slide, please. Now I would like to talk about the Europlanetary mission overview. So as many of you can know, the HERA is, or the HERA and DART is a cooperation with ESA and NASA. NASA launched their DART mission back, I think, last year, and it impacted the asteroid Dimorphos. The objective is to study the redirection of this asteroid, and HERA will launch next year in October. The target is asteroid Dimorphos, and it will do its rendezvous in December 2026. The total launch mass is 870 kilometers. The customer is ESA, and HERA will have 2 CubeSats on board with specific scientific instruments. Next slide, please. Now I would like to talk about Czechspace contribution to the HERA spacecraft. So Czechspace has a contribution in development, design, and verification supply of a complete spacecraft structure subsystem and MGSC. You can see the structure subsystem in the upper right picture, both secondary and tertiary, and the propulsion module in the upper left picture. Czechspace has supported also the central tube development with cooperation with Switzerland Invent company, and Czechspace also provided the structure analysis of the whole structure subsystem, which you can see on the picture below, the global agent mode of eigenfrequency. We also support the spacecraft vibration tests and environmental test campaign. Next slide, please. Here we can see some pictures from OHB in Germany. Those are the propulsion modules and also the primary, secondary, and tertiary structures. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's all from me. I'm sharing the presentation, and if you have any more questions or in contact, please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the participants to have joined us today for this first part of the session this afternoon. So we will now be taking a short coffee break. We'll be picking up again at 4 o'clock. I think the coffee is being served just half a floor up. So I think you have to go down first a little bit and go upstairs again. And we'll pick up the conversation under which we will be having a few discussions in the context of industry and academic collaborations, opportunities, etc. And of course, for those of you who cannot rejoin, we will make sure that we'll be circulating the presentations throughout this discussion. Okay, thanks everyone, and see you in half an hour.